When we bought Avocet in 2018, we knew that a haul out was inevitable. So when our yard date came, we were more than prepared.
What we didn't plan for was a month of bad weather and a pandemic to break out in the middle of our project. While in the boatyard, we focused on a number of projects. We did an extensive osmosis treatment on our bottom, repainted the top sides and the bottom. We put a brand new shaft, a brand new propeller, and my personal favorite was redesigning our deck-to-hull joint.
I could stand here all day and tell you stories about the boatyard, the good things, the bad things, and all the things in between, but I think I'd rather just show you. So let's go back in time. Successful. Watching Avocet get lifted now versus when we bought her in 2018 was such a different and scary feeling.
Having just removed our tow rail that acted as a support for our deck-to-hull joint, we were also listening for any sort of bad sounds, as this is the weakest Avocet has ever been.
Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Oh my God. As the pressure wash continued, it uncovered the vast amount of work that needed to be done to our very neglected bottom. So in the water, I had taken off the pedestal, I took off both of our quadrants, and I basically made our rudder as good as I could make it to fall off as soon as we're in the slings. And the reason I did that is that when you're up in the slings, especially for us sailboats, our rudder shafts are so long that you can only take the rudder out when you're like 12 feet in the air. So you have to get put up in that big crane, and that costs money. So I was trying to kill two birds with one stone by getting the rudder out as soon as we were in the slings. But now I have to get brought back up in the slings, drop the rudder. It's going to be okay because I can sand the bottom of our keel. So basically everywhere that the blocks are touching right now, I can't sand that. And usually when you're in the boatyard, you only get brought back up once, and that's to go back in the water. This little packing gland retaining nut was the problem of why I couldn't get the rudder down. It just took a little bit of fiddling around in the right way to get it to come down. The rudder shoe is actually pretty easy to get off. I just had 4 carriage bolts that I had to drill out and then punch out, and then the whole thing basically came off. Rudder's already ready to go. It's in good shape. There's a little bit of pitting going on at the waterline, so right where you can't really see on the rudder. A little bit of pitting, but nothing too bad. This whole rudder was actually rebuilt in Mexico, I want to say around 2005. What started as a very small blister ended up being a large blister. It's on the very inside, and it basically took off this entire section here. I'm even getting water all the way down to this point. So right now I'm just chasing the water. I've gotten back down to healthy glass all the way here and all the way here. So I think this is probably going to end right about that. Is going to be how big this section is going to be. Day 2 on the yard. So far, I've actually been quite productive. I've gotten the whole bottom of the keel completely prepped, popped all the blisters that were on the bottom. The glass is drying right now, and then tomorrow I'll sand it back down and then apply a barrier coat and do a last paint job. As I was sanding, I came across one blister right here that was abnormally wet. So as you keep going with blisters until you get back to dry glass, it ended up going all the way through the glass into our ballast, and all of a sudden we got a large amount of water coming out of it. With anything, you have to explore, so I started cutting around it, and I cut out about a 4x4 hole. So I freaked out, and because it's a ginormous job to do a ballast replace on a boat, especially an encapsulated boat like this. It's really the one thing you don't want to have to do. In a lot of cases, people just scrap the whole boat at that point. So yeah, I kind of lost it. After I dug around a little bit more in there, I found out that we have a barrier of sand that's holding our lead ballast in the keel. This is the only spot, literally this section right here, and it goes to about right here, which is wet. I'm just gonna let it dry for as long as possible. So this will probably be like this the entire month that we're here in the yard. If it dries out before then, that'd be great, but I doubt it will. I'm sure it's gonna take every bit of that month to dry out. Love you. Yeah, you did. Once we finished painting the bottom of our keel, we turned our attention to sanding the bottom to start the osmosis treatment. Even with extra helping hands, it still took 8 very long days to finish sanding the bottom of Avocet completely down to glass. There are a few people who might think that sanding all the way down to fiberglass was excessive, but with our specific blister issues as well as our knowledge on resins used back in the 1970s, it had to be done to ensure a job well done. Cheers! Cheers! We did it today. Bottom of the boat is sanded. Huge thing to check off of our list. This has been really overdue on this boat. The last time the bottom was done was 15 years ago. So very happy to have this all done. As you can see, I've marked all of the blisters that I can see with my eyes. And I'm gonna come back in just a minute here and pop all those blisters. After that, we're gonna let the bottom just dry. Hopefully we'll be out of here in about 3 weeks. So it gives us a solid 2 weeks to let this baby dry out. And that's kind of the best fighting chance we can give the bottom of our boat. In a perfect world, we'd sit here for 6 months and it would be 85 to 90 degrees out every day and super dry, and that would be perfect. But yards are expensive and we would like to get out of here as fast as possible. So a 2 week dry period with the keel having almost a month is perfectly okay with me.
Finally getting to the point where we can paint.
It's all the same. You hear the sound of your engine. It's so loud to draw attention, but it's just the way you want it.
So for prepping the deck, the whole joint, I'm having to basically cut into the hull and the deck as far as 2 layers of 1708 will be deep. Now, the way I'm going to get this as accurate as possible is I'm using a router, and I'm using that depth right here on this bit. So basically it's countersinking into the laminate an exact amount, and I'll be able to copy that all the way around the boat. So that way, when I lay in the glass and I come back with fairing compound, it will have become the exact same depth as the normal laminate already is. So that way, basically, it's becoming a very easy surface for us to fair it all in and get it ready for paint.
Just the way you want it.
Alright, well, we are just kicking some butt tonight. Not only did we get the rudder done, not only did we get the bottom of the keel done, but we have completely started and finished this deck to hull joint. So we started this morning and just kind of went as far as we could, and now we've gotten all the way up to the bow, 41 feet later, and 2 layers of 1708. Strong is ironed, and feels good to be done with this. Now all we got to do is the port side, and then literally all of it is next is fairing and then paint. So that is a really good feeling. Good. Try not to fall. Nice job, dude. We killed it today.
It rained 12 days in the month of March, making it extremely difficult to continue fiberglassing or painting, which were the next steps of this project. The weather postponed our progress naturally, while simultaneously the coronavirus delayed our material shipments. We and the Boatyard were in suspense, unsure of the days to come, but we kept our focus and continued on.
Oh, it's hot. Doesn't look like it's hot, but it's hot. And it's noisy. Welcome up to the bow. I have brought you up to the stem piece, and there's some fun stuff lying underneath the stem piece. Let me take it off for you. Okay. So our boat originally had teak decks, and when they got removed, I believe about 10 to 15 years ago, the people who ever removed them left part of the teak deck underneath our stem piece. So you can see right here, this is the very front of the decks, but this is where that all terminated, and it actually ended up underneath the stem piece. Not really anything necessarily wrong with that. It's designed right now to be this thickness up above the actual fiberglass on the deck. So there's about a 3/8 of an inch of a teak spacer underneath it right now. Originally when we bought the boat, it's a stainless stem piece and it had bronze bolts, and only I think 2 or 3 of the bolts on top were holding the actual stem piece on the boat. All the ones down here on the front facing part of the bow were all broken off. We went in here, got rid of all the bronze bolts, and then we made a cold mold of our stem piece onto the actual front of the bow. It never really fit that well. Right off the bat, there was a lot of gaps, and with all those bolts being broken off, the whole entire nose here was cracking. Like it was a lot of cracking going on. We made up a big batch of thickened epoxy, put Vaseline on the back of the stem piece, and then went shk. And that way it left a perfect mold on the front of our boat. And ever since then, the stem piece has been relatively strong. There's always been a couple things that I don't like. All of a sudden it's a really clean looking bow, and then when you look closely you can see wood. So I'm going to remove most of this wood here, and then I don't know if anybody is familiar with G10, but G10 is basically just compressed fiberglass into sheets here. So this is a 1/4 inch thick. All I want to do is get my router, bring this whole thing down 1/4 of an inch. That way this guy will lay perfectly in there, and then I can cut it out, make my holes, and at that point I can glass this entire bow in with the deck to hull joint, and it'll all just be one seamless look, and that's exactly what I want. Not only will it look good, it'll be extremely strong. There won't be any more sort of upkeep with the teak. It's a extremely durable wood in the marine environment, but it is also wood still, so it's just one more thing that you kind of have to keep in your mind. And if I can eliminate it, especially up here, it's not like it's doing anything good for beauty wise. So I went very crazy one night and one day to get this entire port side of the boat completely prepped and ready to glass the deck to hull joint. It is Thursday, March 26th, and we glassed the deck to hull joint yesterday. So did the entire thing. That means both of the port and starboard side and the stem piece is all glassed up and all done. So it's pretty big news for us because that was kind of the last huge construction part of the boat. Now it is literally just fairing and filling and fairing and sanding and filling and fairing and sanding. So that's what the rest of our yard work is going to entail. I've gone twice now with some fairing compound, and I've gotten the whole thing really, really close to being ready to go. I just got our big longboard in. This thing's a 22-inch vacuum sander. It's also flexible, so it can do that really well, and it can conform to a lot of different surfaces, and also it's vacuum. So usually longboards aren't vacuum; they kind of make a mess. That one I can stand up here with even without a respirator on, even though I will. I'm just kind of working on oddball things. The weather's been pretty crappy for us, raining all day long. So I got to work on trying to get out our packing gland from the rudder. It was kind of a thing that had always scared me a bit on our boat because it never looked very good, and it leaked, and that was really the whole reason why I wanted to drop the rudder, is that the packing gland looked quite horrible. I got the whole packing gland off right here, and it's actually a really, really neat system, I'm not gonna lie. So this is where the bottom of the hole is on the inside of the boat. This is your traditional packing gland where you have this guy on top and you tighten it down, and that stops the water from coming inside the boat. Now this is where it gets kind of interesting. This is not very normal below the water. Down here, this is where the water is and where the bottom of the hull lies. This screws all the way up through the rudder shaft hole and kind of all threads into the same thing. So this bronze tube here, it has a piece of hard plastic on the inside, and this whole tube kind of acts as a rudder bushing. It's a great system. However, it's 40 years old, so the plastic on the inside is shot. It's just falling out, and what I need to do is just find someone with a lathe who can mill out a piece of plastic for this that will have the same inner diameter as my rudder stock and the same outer diameter as the inside of this bronze tube. It's a very strong idea with it pulling on both sides, clamping it down together. Not really many bushings are made like this. And this right here is our pedestal, and it's aluminum with a lot of stainless and bronze gear inside of it. And that always means that there's a lot of fun with dissimilar metals corroding with each other and then locking themselves in. On the bottom here we have basically two bearings, one like this on the top and one on the bottom. And the one on the bottom, all three bolts were broken off. So anyways, I'm just heating up all the bolts that are broken off and just trying to get them out. I wanted to have all this stuff sandblasted, especially this guy, our quadrant, all of our motions through the steering wheel go through this. So this is super critical, and it's made out of mild steel. So I had imagined to get it powder coated and sandblasted and all that kind of stuff, but with everything being closed for the foreseeable future, it's just not an option.
Nobody's daughter, nobody's son. Don't let the wind or rain roll in. Scrutinize and wipe away your sin. Got caught in the sun and you toasted your little fingers.
Up next on Sailing Avocet.